Mark Strittmater and alien abductions in the Medicine Bow National Forest. Hello everyone, welcome to Doug's Shoe Mysteries. New evidence has been coming in and I believe I can share with you things that you haven't heard before. Strittmater's disappearance has been a viral topic online. It was also featured in a documentary movie, Missing 411, the UFO Connection by David Paulides. I'll tell you the story. Saturday, October 19th, 2019, 1 a.m. Mark Strittmater arrived home from work. It had been a long drive through the night, but he was motivated to go home, get his deer together, and go elk hunting. Maybe he was able to get a little bit of rest, but not much. And then he was out the door around 5:30 a.m., according to his girlfriend. He drove a white Dodge pickup to the local Come and Go. He was seen there and recorded on security camera that morning, 5:45 a.m. From there he drove to the Medicine Bow National Forest and parked beside the road. Bad weather and snowstorms were in the forecast to start later that day, but Mark Strittmater was only wearing a light jacket. As it turns out, he took a small day pack with him, leaving a larger backpack behind, so he wasn't carrying a tarp, tent, sleeping bag, or any kind of survival gear like that, because apparently he was only planning to be out for the day. 11 a.m. he tried calling his girlfriend. When she didn't answer, he texted her saying that he was done hunting for the day. He had seen elk and had shot at 2, but apparently missed. Meanwhile, his girlfriend was out of the house babysitting. She was worried about Mark because a storm was coming. She tried to call and text back but wouldn't go through. Then severe weather rolled in rapidly, laying 12 to 15 inches of snow on the ground. The next day, Sunday, October 20th, Mark still wasn't home. His girlfriend drove to the Medicine Bow National Forest looking for his white Dodge pickup and found it covered with undisturbed snow. She looked around and there were no footprints in the snow, so Mark must have left the truck before the storm and hadn't been back. In the truck she found his keys as expected. She knew Mark's practice was to leave the keys with the vehicle. She also found his cell phone in the truck. That meant that after texting her and saying he was done hunting for the day, for some reason he must have left the truck again, presumably walking into the woods. Why? We don't know. Did he start driving towards home when he happened to spot an elk? Did he then stop the truck to have one more attempt at hunting that day? If so, he hadn't come back. She scouted around just a little bit. She didn't see any tracks in the woods and couldn't find him. So 7 p.m. Mark's girlfriend called authorities to report him missing. 9 p.m. officers with the Carbon County Sheriff's Office arrived and began what turned out to be a massive search with several search and rescue units, as well as members from Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management. There were several dog teams searching, and aircraft and drones. Bad weather did affect the search at times, but they kept looking for him until October 29th, 2019. The Carbon County Sheriff's Office announced the search for Mark Anthony Strittmater had been suspended. Many people attributed his disappearance to alien abduction. I think the most famous of these is author David Paulides, known for his Missing 411 series of books, and Strittmater's case was also featured in Paulides' documentary-style movie, Missing 411, the UFO Connection. So I'll lay out what he presents. Is there conclusive evidence for UFO abduction? Or could there be a more likely explanation? In the movie, Paulides interviews search and rescue personnel. They told them canines didn't pick up the scent. They didn't find any sign of him, no tracks, no rifle or clothing, or any of his gear. With so many searchers covering the area, They would have expected someone to trip over him, but they found nothing. Mark Strittmater was local to the area. He basically grew up in the woods and started hunting as a youth as soon as his parents allowed it. So he had over 30 years of hunting experience, and reportedly 15 years experience as a wilderness outfitter or hunting guide. Pilates interviewed Mark's girlfriend, asking her if she'd ever seen anything weird in the Medicine Bow National Forest. She said he'd been in that area during the rifle season for deer, and he swore that he saw a UFO. He said that he was walking out of the woods when he was done hunting for the day. He happened to look up and saw a black object hovering in the sky and freaked out because it seemed to be following him. He tried to look at it through binoculars, but it was too dark, and then the black object disappeared. When he told this to his girlfriend, she says she was freaked out because he was freaked out. I wouldn't call that conclusive evidence alone, but it is something, and it is strange. A man reports being afraid because a UFO had been following him. Then he goes back to that same general area and disappears. And despite a massive search, no one can find any trace of him. Pilates adds to this by pointing to another case of alleged abduction in the Medicine Bow National Forest. October 25th, all the way back in 1974, another hunter, Carl Higdon, was in that same general area hunting elk when he says he saw a transparent, cube-shaped UFO and met an alien named OSO-1 who looked like a man but had 2 antennas and no hands. He said OSO-1 did have a pointy, cone-shaped thing in the place of his right hand that apparently gave him telekinetic powers. That case obviously is beyond strange. I think it deserves its own video, so you can expect me to cover that soon. So if you're not subscribed, I ask you to do that now so you don't miss it. But just to summarize Pilates' evidence that Mark Strittmater was abducted by aliens. 1, Mark was a very experienced hunter and woodsman, so you wouldn't expect him to get lost or go missing. 2, the case was strange because search and rescue expected to find him and they didn't. 3, Mark reported seeing a UFO. And 4, decades earlier, Carl Higdon told a really strange story about an alien in that same general area. But then over the years, more and more evidence has begun to come in. October 23rd, 2020, a hunter found Mark's binoculars in the woods about 2,000 feet from the spot where his truck had been parked. That sounded so strange to me, it was starting to make the hair stand up on the back of my neck. So in my imagination, I picture him being followed again by that same UFO. And again, he tries to get a better look at it with the binoculars, but this time gets taken up in the UFO and carried off to who knows where. This isn't my logical conclusion. This is how I feel when faced with something as creepy as this. Would my gut feeling be proved correct? Well, even more evidence came in. The hunter contacted authorities about those binoculars. In response, the sheriff's department searched the area with dogs and found other items, though they couldn't be certain that these smaller things belonged to Mark. October 29, 2021, search and rescue found scraps of cloth or pieces of a shirt. Were they Mark's? They couldn't be sure. But they continued to search for a day, but couldn't find anything else. October 16th, 2022, 3 years almost to the day since Mark Strittmater went missing. Hunters found a rusty rifle on the ground under a tree. They looked around and found scraps of clothing, a boot, and a backpack. Looking inside the pack, they found Mark Strittmater's hunting license. Sheriff's Department searched the area and found a jawbone and arm bones that were still inside a vest. Later, the identity was confirmed to be Mark Strittmater. He had been found. What a tragic scene. It's too bad that when he died, his body was out in the weather. Loved ones weren't able to give him a proper burial right away. But at least they did find him in time, and the loved ones have some answers now. They were able to honor his memory and pay their respects. The area where he was found was 5.5 miles from where his truck had been parked. It was 325 yards beyond the search area. So searchers had come close, but not close enough to see him. So was it UFO abduction? Here's the thing, my theory does not require it. We know that the weather turned bad. The severe snowstorm with a quick onset did happen. Mark Strittmater was out in it, wearing inadequate clothing. Something happened, he was out there longer than expected, it became hypothermic and didn't survive, or at least that's what I think most likely happened. But here's what most people don't know. Hypothermia can quickly affect the brain. Then likely the person doesn't realize he's not thinking clearly. Locals were saying that Mark should have been able to find his way out of the woods and get to a road. Basically all he had to do was keep walking downhill. Yes, except the hypothermic brain can be confused. The person intends to go in one direction, but he heads the other way. And then as his body temperature continues to drop, his behavior can seem to be completely irrational. What do you think? Please tell me in the comments. But before I leave, I feel a sense of responsibility as a survival expert. I don't want the same sort of thing to happen to you. I have another channel, Shoe Bushcraft. I'll put a link in the description to a video, Bring This or Die. Wilderness survival gear, most important thing. So that's there if you want to watch it and learn about what kind of clothing to wear in the woods so you don't die if the unexpected happens. Did aliens abduct Mark Strittmater? There's one more topic I'd like to address. There's another hunter, Carl Higdon, who reported meeting an alien, also one. Was in the same general area, and his story is beyond strange. Likely that'll be the next video here on Doug Shoe Mysteries. I'm working really hard to bring you content like this. If you like it, please subscribe. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Remember your word to your servant, in which you have made me hope. This is my comfort in my affliction, that your promise gives me life. Psalm 119, 49 and 50.